Thank you for tuning in and welcome to the first full episode of the LandTech Link podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Must, and I am here to link manufacturing professionals with industry experts. Today we will be speaking with Penny Brown, who is the Director of Marketing and Communications at the Association for Manufacturing Technology. So today we're going to discuss some technological trends witnessed in 2017, as well as what we can expect to see in 2018. So you're going to want to tune in, some interesting stuff. Also, we're going to hit a little bit on what the initiatives for the AMT are and what they're doing to help manufacturers advance in the industry. So again, very interesting stuff. Tune in. We'll get started here after a short break.
The predictive analytics can also have an influence on reducing your downtime, for example, because you can sort of determine, okay, well, I'm busier at this particular time of year, or I'm going to have more orders coming in at this time, so I'm probably not going to want to do a lot of maintenance on my machine. Let me get ahead of that and maybe do it now or schedule it for afterwards, those kinds of things like that, so you can make sure you've got plenty of uptime.
Hello and welcome to the LandTech Link podcast, linking manufacturing professionals with industry experts. I'm your host, Kevin Must, marketing assistant for LandTech Systems, and I'm joined today by Penelope Brown, Director of Marketing and Communications for the Association for Manufacturing Technology. Welcome to the LandTech Link podcast today, and thank you for taking time to speak with me, Penelope. Do you prefer Penelope or Penny? Oh, my pleasure. I'm glad you're able to carve some time.
Sure. Just call me Penny.
Penny? Okay, perfect. I'll go ahead and make note of that then. So, before we dive in, if you could just tell our listeners a little bit about the Association for Manufacturing Technology and what your guys' goals are as far as helping manufacturers advance themselves.
Sure. So AMT, we are based in McLean, Virginia, which is near Washington, D.C. We've been around, I believe, since 1903, more than 100 years old. We represent capital equipment builders in the metalworking industry. So builders and also the distributors of those technologies as well. So primarily things like CNC machines and the tooling and the software that goes along with that. We have more than 500 member companies. They all have a significant presence in the United States. And so basically what we do is we try to help connect them with tools to help them improve their business, whether they want to grow their sales, they want to reduce their costs, or they want to just kind of learn about best practices around leadership or any other number of industry, technologies and education and things like that. We produce IMTS that happens every other year in Chicago. So we've got one coming up this September. That's the International Manufacturing Technology Show. It is the largest industrial trade show in the Americas. So we're very excited to be welcoming people back to that this fall. We expect probably more than 100,000 visitors there again. So that's always, really exciting. And it's really a great event. So I would definitely look into, mark your calendar now, check out imts.com and start making your plans to show up. But yes, we also have a number of live events to help our members kind of connect with each other and network in person. So a lot of different tools, business intelligence tools, custom research, economic information. We provide a lot to our members to help them kind of, strategize and plot their course and decide, what's best for their businesses.
Yeah, definitely. I think with over 100 years of experience, you guys have quite a bit of data there to back everything up as well, right?
Yes. We actually have an entire team. We have a strategic analytics team that really does nothing but monitor and analyze different economic data from around manufacturing and other kinds of things that influence the industry. So very specific down to our industry, but they can, really drill deep into some of these trends that are just happening with the economy. So yeah, definitely a lot of data out there to be kicked around.
Yeah, I'm sure that's definitely a full-time job for quite a handful of people there. There's plenty of data when it comes to cutting machines and just everything else business analytics-wise as well. So how long have you been with AMT for yourself?
So I've been here over 9 years. Actually, I believe it's going to be 10 years coming up in March, which is hard for me to believe. So yeah, it's been an interesting ride here, but I really it's a good place to be.
Definitely. And then you mentioned, the IMTS and a couple other networking events for some industry professionals. Is that do you take care of doing all like the bookings for that, or is that someone in a same department, just different spot?
So my department handles the marketing for those events. So just kind of trying to get the word out,
Okay.
things on social media and email marketing and PR and that kind of thing. We actually have a team that's called Industry Engagement. They are the ones that actually handle I guess you'd say, logistics and planning for the events themselves. So we do have a team dedicated just strictly to that. So our next event coming up will be in March. Actually, no, we have a couple of smaller events coming up before that. We have our IMTS exhibitor workshop. We have an economic webinar that's also live happening in Cincinnati. But our next kind of big meeting will be the MFG meeting, and that's happening in March, and that's going to be in Doral, Florida. So that's a good kind of kick off the year annual meeting, good networking, good executive networking event. So if anyone, some of the topics that we cover will be, just kind of some of the technology things that are happening, cybersecurity, that's a big topic, in addition to workforce development topics and some leadership things. So really good event for a manufacturing executive to attend. So yeah, that's called the MFG meeting. If anybody wants to check that out and see if they want to add that to their calendar.
Definitely. I'd imagine that's out on your guys' website on a calendar of events or something like that as well.
Yes, you can also look up the MFGmeeting2018.com.
All right, perfect. Well, with that said, we'll go ahead and kind of dive into the meat and potatoes of today's podcast. It's going to be a review of our technology in 2017, as well as what we're likely to see or some developments that are going to happen here in 2018. So we'll go ahead and start with the recap. As far as technology goes in 2017, was there any new machine technology that you had seen, or anything that was really interesting to you that was in more developmental stages and could be rolled out in 2017?
I think what we're really going to see in terms of machines that's interesting and kind of continuing to develop is the interface, between users and the machines, because there can be sort of a steep learning curve for learning how to operate. These are very sophisticated pieces of equipment. They're not very easy. They're not very approachable. And so in a time when we're really struggling to find skilled workers, it's kind of important that we make this technology a little bit more approachable and user friendly. So that's been a real, I think, push is around some of the controls to make them a little bit more, or I'd say significantly more user friendly than they have been in the past. So I think that's kind of an interesting development that's coming along too. Another thing that is really, I guess, top of mind for people is cybersecurity, which I know I mentioned that just a minute ago for the topic at the MFG meeting. And of course, that applies not only to your, office, computer network. Now that everything on your shop floor is getting connected, cybersecurity is a really big deal. So that's something that's really, I think, you're going to see a lot more discussion around that, and probably developments around how to secure your shop floor and some of the tools that you need to have in place to do that. A good resource for that, the National Institute for Standards and Technology, NIST, is actually doing a lot of cybersecurity work. So I would recommend kind of paying attention to some of their blogs and some of the things that they put out, because they are sort of on top of that, I would say, monitoring some of the latest developments in that particular technology. Other than that, another really big area is predictive analytics. So that's coming, there's a lot of uses for that. That means kind of determining not just sort of, say, for example, like your car, you take it to the shop every 3,000 miles or whatever it is to get your oil changed. Well, does it necessarily really need the oil change at that point? Or is there a way that we can build analytics into these machines so that we know, like, okay, well, the car's not going to break down, but it is getting to the point where it needs an oil change. So kind of adding those kinds of things into machines where they can warn you or notify you when maintenance is needed, but it's not at a set, schedule. It's more on a when the machine actually needs it kind of basis. That'll also have the predictive analytics can also have an influence on reducing your downtime, for example, because you can sort of determine, okay, well, I'm busier at this particular time of year, or I'm going to have more orders coming in at this time, so I'm probably not going to want to do a lot of maintenance on my machines. Let me get ahead of that and maybe do it now or schedule it for afterwards, those kinds of things like that, so you can make sure you've got plenty of uptime. Other than that, I would say we saw, this is a continuing trend from the last few years. Of course, there's big developments in 3D printing and also in collaborative robotics. Those were, I think, like I mentioned, IMTS is coming up, and you really, if you want to see the really good, interesting, cool technologies, you really do need to come to this event. And I'm not just plugging it because we produce it. It really is fantastic.
Oh, no, yeah. I've seen some recaps of it, and it's amazing.
I mean, absolutely, come up just for, even if it's just for a day, but something that we had last in the 2016 show for the first time was the 3D printing pavilion. And that's just expanding. And so another trend in machining that we saw in 2016 that I'll be interested to see if it carries over were people doing hybrid machines. I believe Mazak had one. A lot of the bigger machine tool makers had a hybrid machine in their booths. So I'll be interested to see if that's still something that we continue to see growing, or are people just going to kind of go, we want a machine that does either the 3D printing or the traditional machining.
Yeah.
So
I have
seen
some too I have seen some that are like hybrids of technology of cutting as well, which was kind of interesting to me.
Right. Yes.
Depending on material thickness or material and kind of just runtime, whatever's cheaper, quality cut and all that, which I found pretty interesting. I can't recall what company it was that had it, but it was pretty neat reading about it for sure.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see where that goes coming up at the next show, and also the collaborative robotics. We had IMTS for years has had, I guess, what you consider traditional industrial robots in the show, but this past time we really saw some really interesting things with robots that are essentially meant to work side by side with people, not locked away in a cage somewhere. So that's a pretty interesting development that I think is going to be cool to see what happens with that too.
Yeah, definitely, especially with all the advancement in sensors and stuff nowadays. I mean, it's between that and the computing power and how fast we can process it to be able to say, okay, the robot is within 2 feet of a human. Don't turn to the right, because they can sense that there is someone to the right and that could be dangerous. It's pretty neat seeing all that and how it's going to progress just from here. Right.
Yeah. Sensors have become, really, their cost has come down and they've become a lot more reliable. So that's enabled a lot of this stuff to kind of take off.
Definitely. And then even like you were saying, too, with the predictive analytics, I mean, the sensors definitely help with that, to be able to see, okay, the torque on this bolt is running down or running low. And I've read some articles where they're putting these sensors into some parts even. One, for instance, was a wind field. They were putting them into the bolts in the windmills, because it was so costly to send someone up there to check the bolts for their proper torque and strength of all that on the bolt, to where these bolts are literally emitting this data back and saying, hey, this bolt is getting close to deteriorating. It's time to send a maintenance technician out and replace it, which I found very intriguing. Just that small of a part could have a sensor in it to tell us when it needs to be fixed. Right. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else that you can think of? I think we hit a pretty good amount of topics there for as far as 2017 goes.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. And I think all of these things are things that you're going to just continue to see developing, as we go through 2018 as well.
Definitely, especially the cybersecurity. That's a big one, with everything being interconnected now. Last thing you want is a hacker to take over your machine and shut down your shop for a day or two while you're trying to figure out what the issue is. Okay, so looking ahead then to 2018, I mean, as you said, we're going to see a lot of these developments kind of progressing through the year, coming up into this year. As far as augmented reality developments, have you read much about that or seen much? And this kind of touches, I feel, on the skills gap a little bit from what I've seen to help people train with goggles or VR headsets, and that way they don't have to waste materials and can still see kind of what to expect when they're on the shop floor after their educational period. Do you see that being a big development for 2018?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that we have noticed growing rapidly over the last few years. And some of our members are actually making use of that type of technology, using it to help train employees or students, on how to use things. And also it goes beyond that too, that it's good for installation and maintenance from a remote area. So, somebody from headquarters can be basically right there if there's a service issue or when a machine is being installed, just to kind of, check in, make sure everything is good. So yeah, beyond the training, it actually has real applications on the floor like that. And another thing you can use that for is also just modeling and prediction, so if you can test things out, say like, oh, we're going to use this type of material. This is how we're going to make this particular part. But you can allow the programs as well to actually basically spit out a finished model for a part, like this, kind of letting it know, like, this is the end result that I want, how can I get there, and you can really get some interesting things with taking, for example, like taking the weight out of something, just getting it to like its most structural, something that's really to its structural limits in a lot of ways. They're kind of the most bare bones it can be. Without taking out a lot of the materials that aren't necessary. So that's good, obviously, for things like aerospace and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one that I've seen too in aerospace. I think it was GE Aviation using the Google glasses for their wire harnesses. And that way the operator doesn't have to look up at the blueprint on their computer and then back down to the wire harness and kind of lose focus and concentration. This way it just overlays it right on top, tells them where to plug it in, and it, just improves efficiencies, as you can imagine.
Absolutely.
Well, cool.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing is like now, it's where it's kind of going, I think, is that, automation is getting it to where people are coming into the, some of these more repetitive, sort of less, lower skilled, I guess, type tasks are now kind of going toward automation. And now people are inserting themselves where they can add value to the process. So that's really, I think, some of the, part of the trend that you're seeing overall is keeping, if manufacturers are having to deal with not being able to hire people, the few that they have, they want them to be as, in a place where they're as beneficial as possible within the operation.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely something that's going to just improve their efficiencies overall.
Right.
Well, cool. Is there anything else that you can think of off the top of your head as far as, technology that we may not have touched on, regardless of, it being 2017 or what we can expect here in this upcoming year of 2018?
I think those are the big highlights. You're just going to continue to see this sort of digital revolution, happening throughout the industry. And, I'm excited to see too, there's younger people definitely getting an interest in the industry. And, people complain about millennials. It gets really tiresome hearing about that. But, you're about to have a generation of people that are really anxious to do things in a new way. And I think that's going to really just make things a lot more exciting for this industry, probably over the next 5 to 10 years, as these people really start to kind of come into the industry and start asking, like, why do we do things this way? And why can't we do it this way? And I think you're going to just continue to see a really big revolution where, manufacturing is becoming more accessible to the masses in a lot of ways, so that's, I think, a trend you're going to continue to see. Democratization, that's a big thing. No, and I totally agree. I mean, I think it's going to be an exponential growth of, technological trends taking off. Like you said, with just, the younger generation workforce coming in and questioning, like, why do we do it this way? We can use technology to streamline it or make it better, quicker, more efficient, whatever it may be.
and I'm interested to see how, where this takes us as well.
Yep, for
but
sure.
That's all I've got. If you have any questions for me, go ahead and knock them out here at the end, or if not, then we can go ahead and wrap this up.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
All right. Well, again, Penny, I appreciate you taking the time to take this call today with us. And, we look forward to seeing where the technology trends lead us in 2018 and beyond. And I hope that you have a very happy new year and get over your cold quickly.
Yes, thank you. Same to you.
All right. Thank you, Penny. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
The Lantech Link podcast helps link manufacturing professionals with industry experts, providing news and insights regarding technology, education, and the economy of manufacturing in the U.S. This podcast will answer questions manufacturing professionals may have about Industry 4.0. If you would like to suggest a topic or be a guest on our show, please email Kevin Must at k.must@lantechsms.com.